Hi, everyone, and thanks, Kevin, for the kind invitation. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I'm just going to give you really an overview of a lot of things. I think here it's a little bit mixed audience, people with a little bit more quantum background and less quantum background. So that's why I think it's important to understand the ecosystem. I guess in this series, Kevin has brought you different speakers with different background anyway, but I'm going to give you my 2 cents on how I see the ecosystem and what we do in it. I see something in the chat. I don't know if it's for me, but Kevin, you let me know if I have to do anything.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So how I see the ecosystem in any emerging technology, when you think of how everything is developed, it's like you have the scientists, the academics, they do very cool science that then at one point is going to be developed into a new industry. But you also have the industry, the end users, and the people who are already there who needs to use this new industry and products that are emerging. Then you have the government and the VCs, anyone putting money into this science that is going to create a new industry. But you also have the general public and people that are new into this ecosystem or quantum family in this case, that want to understand more. And as you know, there are a lot of things in the media, and not everything is at let's put it, the same level of truth. Now, what is different with quantum is that surprise is based on quantum mechanics. And I think quantum, for people that are new to it, they have like kind of two responses. Either they think, wow, this is really cool, or, oh, it's too scary, quantum, what is that? I had a lot of reactions, like people telling me like, yeah, I have read something about black holes or things like that. So for whoever is there that understand quantum, is not really what we are talking about here. It's not about black holes. But then you understand how important it is to really understand why we are doing all this fast about quantum technologies. But one thing is that quantum technology is not new. You're using quantum technology every day. You have your computers, your phones, where you have a lot of transistors. We have lasers everywhere. We are using the GPS now, even in our phones, and we have magnetic resonance imaging. There are a lot of things out there that are based already in quantum mechanics. So now you could tell me, okay, so what is new? If you think about what I'm showing you here, you have a lot of different particles at the same time. In a laser, you have a lot of photons. In a transistor, you have a lot of electrons. In the last decades, scientists, they have been able, instead of working with a lot of particles, they have been able to take one particle and do things to that. And that is so cool that that's why we're creating this new emerging ecosystem that is quantum technologies. It's a second quantum revolution based on quantum mechanics and the control of that at that scale, at that level. So all the fuss about is really being able to control quantum matter at the single particle level and being able to design new technology based on that control. And as you know, there is quantum computing, but it's not just quantum computing, because there are other technologies. And this is important because I think 95% of what you read about quantum is about quantum computing. And there is really much more out there. And it's important because it's affecting other sectors, it's affecting new technology that is going to be applied in completely different use cases. And that's why it's important that we have this kind of better overview about what is in general quantum technologies. And what is important is that there is a lot of money on it. And I guess that's why we are all here right now, is because we know that there is an interest in it. And here you have only public funding. And you could say, wow. And yes, this is what we are really updating this every 6 months or so, because it's really changing a lot. I had slides showing the history of that, but I couldn't do that in 30 minutes. But here for you to understand. Around 12 years or so ago, Canada and Singapore started thinking that it could be cool to put money into research for quantum technologies. In 2013, 2014, the UK decided that they were going to launch the first national program on quantum technologies. Now we are ending the second phase of that program. That sums up around 1.2 billion pounds, I think, at the moment. In 2018, and that was, I think, the golden year, it was when the European flagship was launched, and the National Quantum Initiative in the US the same year. I was in both of these launches, so I'm pretty well involved in all this ecosystem. I'm saying this because I don't know where you are all located, so if you have any questions particularly about anything, hopefully I can answer. And as you know, after that, it was really like everywhere. There was a national program popping out somewhere. China numbers, no, they are not sure that these are really the numbers, but we know that there is a lot of money on that. Even during the pandemic, there has been national programs and there have been a lot of things going on. So 30 billion euros just on public funding, that's a lot of money. And then you need to imagine all the public funding, the private funding that is not coming from the government on top of that. So yeah, it's moving a lot. One thing here is that you see some areas that are a little bit gray. And one of the things that we are doing is really trying to focus on those areas to boost the emerging quantum ecosystem in those areas. I'm saying this because I don't know where you are. So quantum companies per region, because we have seen the funding, but now it's like, okay, but what is going on? Do we have companies? We have companies everywhere. And of course, it really depends on what kind of companies, at what level they are, how many people they are in the companies. It's not the same what we have in each country. But the cool thing is everywhere, which again is really, really amazing. And it has been last year or two years ago, it was really every month there was a new company coming out somewhere saying we are developing something in quantum, which I think is amazing. If we look a little bit more in detail, in like where are really these companies located in terms of what countries, you can see that they have literally everywhere. Of course, US, UK, Canada they have the larger amount of companies at the moment, but there are some other countries that are catching up. And again, I think the important message here is not that some countries have more companies, it's the fact that there are companies in a lot of countries. Because that means that there is really this interest in commercialization of the technology, because the science is there. There are a lot of countries with great science, but we need to boost the science into something that is going to be commercially available. If we think about the sectors, yes, a big bunch of it is computing in one kind of another. So it could be hardware, software, end-to-end. There's a lot about computing in general, but there are a lot of other things. We have consulting companies, we have education companies, and we have enabling technologies that this number is going to grow, because we are preparing right now a list of companies that are part of the supply chain that are not directly quantum companies per se, but whatever they are doing is going to boost the other technologies that are directly quantum. So for example, if you think about lasers, there are a lot of companies that are laser companies, but they are doing things that are going to be helping the development of a quantum computer or any other kind of quantum technology. Okay, so that's kind of the first thing that I wanted. So a lot of information, a lot of overview. Now, we know that there is public money. We know that there are a lot of startups. Where are we in terms of workforce? People have been talking about this recently a lot. It was, I think in 2018, 2019, there was not much about, but some people mentioned, it seems that there are not so many people with the right skills. But it has been really the last year where everybody's talking about. I just came back from an event in London, the Economist event. I don't know if you have seen it, but literally anywhere that I was going, I was hearing people talking about this, which is really cool, because that's what we are doing. And when we started, now I was really focusing so much on it. But there is a shortage in talent. Is it clear that there's not enough people for this booming of startups that I just mentioned? And people are trying to identify first how to tackle the bottleneck, and also what is going to be really this emerging ecosystem in the different countries. So what we have done is trying to understand the market in terms of how the market is going to grow. Again, the numbers are very fast. It's really, really hard to say in 2030, we are going to have, I don't know how many billions in quantum. It's very hard. And I don't think that there is an actual number that we can say as a response to that. But what we know is that it's going to grow a lot, but it's going to be really in the long term where we are going to have this really boost of quantum, because we are going to have actual quantum computers and we need to use them. That is going to be the long term. But we have seen there are a lot of startups, and this number of startups, I don't think it's gonna grow steadily, and we are gonna have more and more startups hiring, which means that we need a workforce that is at present and in the short term, midterm, but we need a workforce that is gonna be available in the next 20 years. And that workforce is children right now. It's people that are at schools and high school, universities. So we need to think about how to tackle the workforce bottleneck now, but also how we can educate the workforce for the future. So is it the quantum workforce ready? Obviously not. But if we think about how we are going to tackle this in the future, we really need to think about doing something now, because implementing something in terms of education takes really long time. If we are thinking about the different levels of education, yes, this is my slide. So here you have, I think this is from the US, but it's pretty much similar in each country. So you have primary education. I'm not putting kindergarten or nursery school here. I don't think it's necessary, but we have the first level of education, where in order to educate them, it's really outreach activities and trying to teach the teachers, because you cannot expect a student in school to understand quantum if the teacher is not able to explain it. And I think there are a lot of initiatives in the US, particularly. There have been really a lot going on in how to educate children, how to bring quantum to high school. So there are a lot of activities out there. Now, if we go to university levels, of course, we have physics and physicists that are either doing a bachelor's, a master's, or going into PhD, and they might be somehow ready or not for specific positions. But the question is, do we really need to think just in physics undergrads? No, we need to think about engineers and other mathematicians, chemists, other undergrads that with a little bit of quantum knowledge, they will be ready in terms of skills for this workforce. And then we have, of course, a lot of PhDs and different master programs that have been created that are kind of the last education level that hopefully will give you this right set of skills to be part of the workforce. So in terms of masters worldwide, there are a lot of masters, and I think there are more and more programs that are under development at the moment. So probably this, and it's actually a pleasure for me to say that the paper has been published today. So that's why I could put directly the DOI from the paper. So you can have more information there, but I wanted to share with you really these figures. I think they're important. It's what everybody's talking about. Like, where can I study if I want to know more about quantum? So here you go. You have different options. Some of them you can even do it remotely. And there are really a big bunch of educational resources out there. It was really hard to try to make this figure available, because somebody could come and say, hey, you forgot us. It's really impossible to say that this is the figure with all the things going on in quantum, but it's, I think, a pretty good overview if you're interested in doing online courses, certified courses, if you want to participate in events, if you are interested in just playing some games about quantum, anything that is about quantum, I'm sure that there's a possibility for you to learn more. So if we are thinking about these different educational levels, we have people that they just want to learn quantum in the free time, and that's how I actually started, coming from industry and then moving into academia to do my PhD. I was just in my free time learning about quantum. So there are a lot of resources out there. The question is, what do you want to do in terms of if you're looking for a job, for example? What are the right resources for you? And this is important, because I have seen a lot of people coming to me saying, I have been doing this and that. Can I get a job in quantum? And the answer, I'm sorry, is no, not at the moment, because we need people with experience. We need people with the skills, and having just a little bit of some additional gain time in quantum is not going to give you those skills, unfortunately, but it's the beginning. Again, remember, this is going to be exponential. So we are just at the beginning of the emerging market, and I think it's a very good starting point. For career pathways in quantum, again, it really depends what you are doing, and it also depends where you are. And I say this because actually in this paper, we have shown that if you are in the US or Canada, with a bachelor's and a little bit of industrial experience, you probably can get directly into quantum industry. Whereas in Europe, people really look a lot for PhDs still. So it's very good to know that, well, it really depends. I always say it really depends on who you are, what is your picture, what are your skills and your expertise, and where do you want to go, and then try to bridge that gap. That's what we are trying to do. But at each level right now, I'm sure that there's specific quantum training that can make you ready to join the quantum workforce. And I don't know, people here, if you're part of a large corporate, and sometimes they come to us and say, what could be my strategy? Should I hire a quantum specialist at the moment? My answer normally to that, and even so we are doing recruitment, is no. If you're really new to quantum, I don't think it makes sense that you say, I'm going to hire someone, because the first thing that you need to do is to understand quantum and what quantum can bring to your business. And then you think about this strategy in the mid and the long term. But here there is just some ideas or possible activities that you could do in this different short, mid, and long term for you to be quantum ready. Okay, so that's a little bit about the workforce, and then I guess the question is, okay, but really, what are you doing here? Why are you explaining all these? So again, I mentioned before, I moved from industry to academia, and it was the beginning of this emerging market. And it was clear that there was a huge gap between academia and industry. And this is everywhere, you know, when you have an emerging market. But in this case, it was really like, there is an emerging market where everybody wants to speak the same language, but they don't speak the same language. There's a lot of education that has to be done. That's how everything started. And QURECA was born in, actually, it's going to be 3 years in less than a month now. So the idea was really to bring that common language to everyone, anyone in this ecosystem, to make you ready for quantum. What it means quantum for you depends on your business, depends on who you are. And at the end, what we want is to create value, to create impact, and to make money out of it. We are talking about all these because we see an opportunity, and this is there is a clear opportunity why we should invest time and resources into this emerging market. So what we offer is we work really with practically anyone everyone in the ecosystem. So from individuals to quantum startups, quantum, any enthusiasts, and even corporations that want to know more. So we offer different kind of services. We work with startups that want to grow their business. So it depends on, even if it's just an individual with an idea or a very well-established startup, what do they need to grow their business? We work with corporates and end users who would like to build their strategy, as I mentioned before. How can them be ready in quantum, what is needed and what could be those steps? And of course, we do a lot of workforce and skills, because that's really the core of everything, is how can we speak all this the same language? And we focus a lot on training and resourcing. So if you remember this overview about the different levels of education, if we think about the last layer, where it's like a person coming out of university looking for a job, or someone after 20 years working somewhere that wants to go into quantum, what do you need in terms of education to be ready to go into quantum? That's what we are doing. So we really talk with any individual, and we try to identify whether the individual needs more education, or if they are looking for a job, exactly what could be that job. So at the end, we are really developing quantum leaders and building the quantum workforce. What we do is we work with those individuals looking for jobs and education, but of course we work with the enterprises, the quantum startups that are hiring, and also that any end user that needs to be educated and then hiring into the process. That's how we work. And our USP is that we have been in the network, we have been in the quantum family since it was even before being born as it is now. And we understand both sides. We understand industry and we understand academia. So I think altogether we are in the right place to be able to provide these resources. So a little bit more in detail, we have an online platform for courses where we have courses at different levels, introductory courses, no mathematics, and then courses a little bit more specific business sectors. We provide specific tailor packages for companies depending on the sector or whatever they need. I mentioned before the professional services. We have recruitment as a service. So we work with any kind of company looking to recruit either technical people or business people, or any kind of really individual with specific skills in the quantum ecosystem. We work a lot on career events, career tutorials, and make people ready. And as I mentioned before, there were all these gray parts into the warm-up where we try to boost the quantum communities there. We have the first edition of Quantum Eastern Europe just, I guess, over 3 weeks ago. And we have the second edition of Quantum Latino coming up in June. That it was really successful last year. That's why we are following this year. So if you want to get involved with any of this, just let me know. More about the online courses. We are certified because we think that it's really important that you are doing something that is going to bring you value with whatever you are doing. And this is important because again, I changed my career from when I was in engineering, when I was in industry, to quantum, thanks to an online course. That was kind of the certification for that was kind of the proof that I could do that. That's why we believe the certification is very, very important. And CPD means that if you're in industry, you could get these credits, and it's really a worldwide certification that is valid anywhere. We have the courses that I mentioned before, Quantum for Everyone, non-technical for anyone to understand what is all about, who is doing what, why should you care as a professional. We are starting with applications in finance, so all about the financial sector. People who are from quantum and they don't know finance, we provide that course, and people who are from finance and they don't know quantum, we provide that. So at different levels of education. And then we are working with specific companies, like probably you know Zapata Computing, and they are using our platform for their educational resources. We also have a lot of things for free in our website. As Kevin mentioned, there are a lot of things out there, and it's really, we're just trying to tell you, there are a lot of things out there, and if you don't find it, just let us know. We have a calendar of events, so you just need to register in our platform, and for free, you have the access to this calendar. Hopefully all events that are happening now more in person again, you can find it. So it's really, and if you are organizing an event, we can add it to the calendar. It's really about, hey, you cannot tell me that you didn't know about this, because it's in our calendar. So I think that's the whole overview. Actually, it was quite fast.